Hey, everybody. Welcome to 50 Conversations with 50 Strangers. What a day this has been for me. Beautiful, beautiful day. I originally thought when I presented this idea to myself, because I'm the counsel of one that makes the decisions in my life of what I'm going to do, that it would take me about 50 days. I romanticized, wouldn't it be cute to have 50 conversations with 50 strangers in 50 days? And I thought maybe I'll get to that, maybe I won't. I think it's going to take about 6 or 7 days because my calendar is just, as soon as it came out, something about it had magnetism to it. And people have just flocked to these conversations. And I have to tell you, I'm so touched by what I'm finding because people that are complete strangers in a world where we're taught to hate people and separate ourselves from people because of the color of their skin or the country that they come from or the religion that they practice. In the conversations that I've had of people of every race and from every nation, all I felt within the first 5 minutes is how much what they're saying could have come right out of my own mouth. So I don't want to preamble this and say that's what's going to happen here, but I'm so excited to have Jackie here and to have this conversation with her. Um, she is even more courageous than most because she herself didn't actually respond. She had someone respond and suggest her. And so I always love people that are courageous like that and come on and just say, let's just do it.
Mhm.
So, Jackie, would you be so kind to tell us who you are and what's important to you?
Mhm. Yes. Hello, and thank you for talking with me today.
My honor.
I'm Jackie Bertolette, and mainly I'm a mom of three children and a wife. And my youngest is special needs, so I do homeschool him.
Wow.
And my older two are out of high school and doing their own things, learning how to be adults on their own. So hopefully I did a good job with them. We'll see.
Yes.
And my husband and I were pretty good with them, so we'll see. And then professionally, I used to work out of the home full time at a regular corporate position. But when I had my third child, and he was very, very ill from almost immediately. So, the corporate world's really kind, but they only give you so much time off.
Yeah.
So I had to resign because I needed to be with my son.
Yeah.
So I have not worked a traditional job since my son was born, which is almost 12 years now.
Wow.
Um, but I'm also not the kind to sit around and do nothing. So after we made it through all the medical dramas with him and he was finally cleared medically, then I decided I needed to do something with my time. And my husband suggested that I start a magazine, which is 30 years of experience coming together.
Wow.
So I actually own and am editor in chief. I am the lead photographer. I am pretty much all of it at Haute Ohio magazine. It's Ohio's only quarterly high fashion publication.
Wow.
And I run Ohio Fashion Week, and I manage models, discovered models, scouting and management. And I do all of it from my kitchen table after school's done.
Uh, like what a beautiful world we're living in that we can do something like that, something that's so high fashion from the kitchen table in art. Where do you live? I'm assuming you're in Ohio somewhere because that's where you're. So
Mhm.
and here's my naivete. I would never assume that Ohio is a fashion capital of the world, so
You're not alone in that.
right. So but how beautiful, because I know that I've been to Cleveland, and Cleveland is a very, very sophisticated city. And there's
That's
a,
where I live. I
yeah,
love Cleveland. Shout out to the land.
I love Cleveland too. And you go LeBron and, back and forth, but I was so taken by it. And I was also taken by another place. There's a spa that I did some work with, which is called Spa Walden,
Uh-huh.
which is also in Hawaii, a very like a 6-star spa, beautiful in the hills of in the lands of Ohio, which is so it's
Mhm.
beautiful. So we can never judge a book by its cover,
Right.
right?
Correct.
And
And
so,
that's true in everything. So,
yeah,
I mean, everything. The Ohio, I focus on the Midwest for fashion in all aspects of it, from models to designers to hairstylists, the whole gamut, because there's really world-class talent here that people don't even know.
wow,
So my job is to give them a platform so the world can find us.
yeah,
And we really have a huge industry here. But generally, people kind of disassociate themselves from the Midwest because, kind of people in the industry are kind of like, you're from where?
right, right.
So they kind of end up taking a PO box in New York or something just to look legitimate. But now that we're really trying to create an industry for couture, which is a brand new, really a brand new genre in the Midwest for us. So
Wow,
we're trying to bring it to the light and give opportunity to people who have dreams, the kind of dreams that I had when I was fresh out of college, but I wasn't able to realize for basically for the fear of moving to New York on my own.
yeah,
I wanted to be a fashion photographer. I knew that from the beginning. But I was afraid to move to the big markets, 19, 20-year-old girl, not going to happen. So,
yeah,
so I ended up kind of giving up on my dream and doing a day job and just, whenever I could take a few jobs here and there. Um, and over the years, I kept myself busy doing the photography, but I just wish that there had been this kind of an opportunity for me when I was starting out, because
yeah,
I think this is a catalyst that will really launch a lot of careers for people who have dreams out of the Midwest. And you
yeah.
don't have to move to the big markets; you can still stay here. So,
So I want to just take a pause for a minute and just ask people who are listening, how relatable is Jackie's story, right? And how many people have given up their dreams because they're in a place where those dreams don't seem possible.
mhm.
And and on top of that, she has a special needs child. And on
Mhm.
top of that, she's in the Midwest, or sort of more towards the east of the Midwest, but the Mid East, I'm going to say, right? But
Mhm.
and everything would be going against the idea in people's perceptions, and yet still she does it, and still she creates it. And I also just want to share that within the first 5 minutes of you speaking, how touched I am by how much we share, because I have a special needs daughter
Oh,
who
okay.
who is the greatest gift that I've ever been given.
Mhm.
But I,
Mhm.
I didn't always think that that was the case. But now over
Agree.
time, I
Agree.
feel like I've learned more from her than any teacher that I've been around.
Mhm.
And I also had, for a little period of time, an idea came to me to create a high-end sort of leisure line, and
Oh,
that I created, which was basically high-end sweats. And
okay.
what we did, I didn't know that there was anything crazy about this, but I worked with a publishing house, and I thought, if people are buying the words of these authors that was self-help, they might like to buy the words of the authors on their clothing. Why wouldn't they? And then
Mhm.
I found the scientist from Japan who was doing work with water, and he showed that when water molecules actually change when you put positive or negative thoughts on them. So
Mhm.
when he,
Mhm.
he wrote hatred, the water molecules disrupted and couldn't maintain a shape. When he put
Mhm.
love, the water molecules that were even disrupted came together and became. And so I said to him,
Mhm.
I'm putting words on clothing anyway. Can I tell your story and help promote you and promote the line through telling your story? And
Mhm.
people went crazy for it. I was in Neiman Marcus. I was in all the high end spas and resorts. I was in high-end gift shops,
Yeah.
and I knew nothing about clothing. I knew nothing about anything. So I just want to say that, like, 3 minutes ago, I didn't even know you existed. And
Right.
right,
Exactly. You know what? I like that because like I have this whole like empire from my kitchen table, but people don't really know me.
yeah,
Like they don't know my face because I'm kind of behind the scenes of everything. So I
yeah.
kind of like the anonymity. But yeah, no, we had never met before. So.
We never met. I didn't Google you. I didn't do any of that because I wanted to have it be just to have a moment like this where I had no idea if we would share anything or not. But in
Mhm.
the first
Mhm.
few minutes, look at already the meaningfulness of the things that we do share.
Exactly.
And
Yes.
and
And
so,
just like you were saying with, you said it was your daughter is special
Yeah.
needs. When my son was very sick, it was very dire illness. The doctors didn't think he was going to survive. And at the time, and I'm very spiritual. My husband isn't so much, but I had everybody I knew praying. Please save him. He didn't do anything wrong. He's 10 weeks old. Um, at the time, I didn't understand why my deity would let something like that happen to him.
Yes.
What he didn't do anything. But now that I'm away from it and things are good, I can look back at it and see that that was the turning point in our entire lives.
Well,
And that brought us a joy we never would have ever experienced. It took us to hell and back. I tell
yes.
you
Yeah.
what. But we've met doctors from around the world. He was in the right place at the right time. The right doctors, took care of him. It's just amazing. And if he hadn't have gotten sick, I still would probably be working my 9 to 5. And, people wouldn't be having opportunities to walk in New York Fashion Week or Paris so it's literally, we actually have a column where we invite contributors from our readership or even columnists that's called um, weakness and strength and weakness. I'm sorry. And that's exactly what it's about. From these horrible things that we live through, how
Yeah.
can we get strong and how can we share those? So, yeah, it really, honestly, at the time, I didn't understand at all how this could be good.
Yeah.
But
No.
in the end, he's an inspiration to so many people, and it's just an amazing gift that God gave us. So.
And so, update me just on status of where things are with him now. Is he where? How would most people look at him and say that his world is right now? Is he?
Physically, he looks totally typical for his age. He's 12. He is on target mostly for his grade level. He has
Wow.
some learning disabilities with math. It was a brain infection, so he has a significant brain damage. And so it's really amazing that he has the cognizance that he does. But he has trouble with math, numbers, spatial relationships, things like that. So, but science and social studies, he's right on grade level. You wouldn't know looking at him. They didn't even know if he would even feed himself, let alone,
Wow.
be in 8th grade.
Wow.
Well, 7th grade, I'm sorry. So you wouldn't know, and he's just a wonderful, glorious little boy.
Yeah.
Just the only thing we have as far as residual is he does still have the brain damage, but he was so young that his brain rewired almost everything, and so he's learned how to do things in his own way.
Yeah.
But we do still suffer from seizures now and then, just as a result of the activity. But his medications are really keeping manage of it. So we're just so blessed.
Yeah.
He's a good kid. You wouldn't know.
And as he gets older, as we get older, I've started to look into some of the work that Elon Musk is doing. And
Mm-hmm.
are you aware of like the
Yes.
Neuralink and stuff like that
Yeah.
that they're talking about?
Mm-hmm.
It's just so interesting to see what technology and science and artificial intelligence is creating to make
Mm-hmm.
the world. My daughter doesn't speak well,
Okay.
so and they can't figure out she never got a diagnosis. They don't know what she has, but
Okay.
she just doesn't function the way other people do.
Okay.
And so what happens for me is that because she trusts me and loves me, and she knows I love her above anything, she expects me to be able to understand her. And
And you
most
probably are the only one who does, because we
well,
were like that with our son for a while. Myself and my husband were the only ones that could understand his speech impediment and stuff.
yes,
You
yeah,
have to translate for him.
yeah, yeah, and that's what's happened over the course of time. I understood her, and but then sometimes I didn't, and when I didn't, she would raise her voice, and she would
Mhm.
start to yell, and so she really just thought that if she said it louder, I would get it, but it wasn't
Yeah.
the volume; it was the clarity.
Hmm.
And so when she yelled and I didn't get it, then she would go into tantrum.
Yeah.
And that could happen anytime, anywhere, any place, right? She would just
Mhm.
get so frustrated because I couldn't get it.
Mhm.
And I think your eyes tell me you have an idea of what that's
I
like.
totally, I
Right.
have a story for that one. And I was always not the kind of person who would, look at other people and go, why are you doing that? Because everybody's got their own story. But when my son was still around 4 years old and he was still having communication issues and he had terrible anger issues for a while. And he also had confusion with what was dangerous. Like he couldn't separate those two things, like he would jump out a window and not even think that this shit's not a good idea,
Right. Right. Wow.
So there was one time when he had just been given the okay to go out into public because he had a very immunodeficient, syndrome based on what was going on. So once the doctor said he could go to the public, I had not been out of the house in like 3 years because he
Wow.
needed constant medical supervision.
Wow.
So it was like the week before Christmas, and I was like, oh my gosh, I get to actually go Christmas shopping.
Oh my
So I
God.
took him shopping, and he went into a rage in the middle of the store. And it was totally a physiological response. It was not learned behavior. It was absolutely, the brain going crazy. Um, and I had so many people looking and pointing and, what
Yeah.
kind of mother are you? And, and
Yeah.
I'm trying to pick him up and he's having literally a meltdown.
Yeah.
And I was just like, you know what? You don't ever know who you're looking at or why this is happening. So
No, you sure
I
don't.
totally understand when when we didn't understand him, he would get very, very frustrated, and then he would act out, and yeah. So it was, now he communicates very well, but it was a long. I totally understand.
Yeah. And so one of the things that happened for me in that process is I started to realize, because after she would tantrum, then she would attack. So she would try and rip my shirt or bite me or do something. And this
Hmm.
went on for a long time. She still is not communicative as much as she's getting a little bit better, but not really. She still, most people don't understand her.
Hmm.
But finally, in the midst of her rage, I said, Elisa, you have to understand, I love you more than anything in this world. And I just can't understand you.
Hmm.
Can
Hmm.
you communicate to me in a way other than with your words?
Hmm.
Can you
Hmm.
do something?
Hmm.
And from the midst of her rage, she had this big smile come to her face that just melted my soul. And in
Yeah.
perfect English, she said to me, I am daddy. And I said, what the hell are you talking about? You are daddy. How are you doing that? And she put her finger to the side of her head, which made me understand that she was actually putting thoughts into my head. Because
Uh-huh.
she couldn't speak, she had telepathically, she was more advanced because
Hmm.
and I had felt that
Oh, I got the
happening.
chills on that one. I totally understand that.
Yeah, and I felt that was happening, but I didn't trust it.
Yes.
So from the time that I said, "You little son of a gun, you're putting thoughts in my head, aren't you?"
You're playing mind control tricks on me.
I, and she started. She did what you did, but imagine all the frustration of her not being
Right.
understood for the first time, and her laugh was just contagious and giddy. And we
Mm-hmm.
just started laughing together for what seemed, it was probably only 5 or 10 minutes, but it felt like it was a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And there was such a release from that moment on, which was about 5 years ago. She's never yelled, she's never tantrum, and she's never attacked. And
That's a beautiful moment that you
beautiful.
came to understand her and she understood that you understand her. And
And
so that's a bonding that is incredible.
it really was. And Jackie, if the story ended there, it would be beautiful. But what
Mm-hmm.
I also realized is every single person that I meet, or every single person I work with, every single person, whether they're the CEO of a company or an employee, whether they run government or they're in government agencies, whether they're teachers or students, whether they're CEOs of companies or employees in companies, whether they work in hospitals or they're in hospitals, every single one of them has that same pattern that they develop. Maybe not quite as raw as my daughter, maybe not quite as acted out, but when people speak and they don't get heard, they yell. When they yell and they don't get heard, they create a scene. They create chaos. When they
Yeah.
create chaos and they don't get heard, they try and destroy. People shoot up a building. People blow up a building. People shoot at
Mhm.
Times Square. And
Mhm.
what I realized is if we would only learn how to listen to what people are saying, they would never have to yell, they would never have to tantrum, they would never have to attack.
Right.
And so it's become the center of the work that I do with people,
Mhm.
what my
Mhm.
developmentally delayed 30-year-old daughter taught me. So
Mhm.
it's, I mean, miraculous things.
Mhm.
Um, I got carried away. I'm sorry, but I'm
No,
so happy
absolutely.
to I'm so
I
happy
love
to hear.
talking to people who have, kind of understand my story because,
Yeah, 100%.
it's a small percentage of the population. And I never thought I would be part of that percentage, but here I
No,
am,
neither
and
do.
I'm so grateful for it.
Yeah, you and I are the same on that. Let's switch the energy a little bit. Quick answers, okay? Are you a dog or cat? Are you a dog person or cat person?
Okay. Well, the truth on that is I'm definitely a dog person. I currently have a cat. We had two, but one just passed away because my husband is a bleeding heart and he found some strays. So for the first time in my life, I've had cats for about 10 years. But
Wow.
we are getting ready to get some pups. We're looking for German Shepherds
Oh, wow.
to be service dogs for my son because as we're we're not young parents,
Yeah,
and so we're trying to prepare, just prepare things for when we're not here for him. So
love that.
we're setting up accounts and trusts and guarantorships and all that kind of stuff. And part of it is getting him an animal that he feels can trust, like he can trust us. So
Love
I'm a
that.
dog person.
Yeah, you don't see service cats very often, right? No.
No, not no.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Okay. Are you
Hmm.
someone that's in the box? Would you say you're an in the box person or an out of the box person?
Out of the box.
Fabulous.
I don't even know how to get in the box. I can't find that door.
It seems like most of the people that are coming on the show are out of the box people. I don't know if I just draw them or I haven't heard anybody say I'm an in the box person yet. So,
No.
um, do you feel it's more important to speak your truth or to be able to listen to what other people's truths are?
Other people's truths.
Well,
I am happy with myself. I found enlightenment within my soul. I am comfortable with my spirituality. I love my family. I'm totally comfortable with myself. I could not be heard for the rest of my life. I'd rather listen to other people's stories.
I love that. I love that. Do you feel like you fit into the world or do you feel like you're different?
No, I'm different. I've always been different because, first of all, I've always had this bizarre notion or feeling that I was going to do something great in my life. I still haven't reached, I still haven't figured out what that is, but maybe it's the mentorship that I'm doing with all these models and designers. But I've always felt that I was different and that I had more promise than a lot of my
Yeah,
colleagues did. I had more dedication and more commitment. And I'm very talented in a lot of things, so they're God-given talents. So I'm definitely different from the masses.
okay. Are you a head person or a heart person? Which one?
Head,
He-
absolutely. Head.
Head.
Mhm,
Wow. Wow. That
mhm,
surprised me. I thought you would go the other way.
mhm, mhm.
And a leader or a follower?
Leader.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
It's so interesting for me because, I just came up with those as like an icebreaker to start out things but, and it doesn't pigeonhole somebody into a category, but it's just so interesting to hear how common the responses are for most of the people that I speak to.
Hmm.
And yet so many people say they don't feel like they fit in. They feel like they're different. And
Hmm.
yet in the difference of being alone and different, they think there's something wrong or it's not. But if everybody's different, like one woman said, God, fit in or not fit in, I feel like I fit in because we're a world of misfits. So I feel right.
That's kind of it. That's a. That's exactly it. Hmm.
It was great.
But I don't feel separated by it. Like I don't feel put down or negative by it. The difference is unique to me, and it's empowering difference. So
Yes.
that's a little, some people do feel like I don't fit in, so I'm not as good, or confidence issues. Confidence is not a problem for me.
Love it. I love it. So one of the gifts it feels like we share is the ability to hear what our children, who nobody else can hear, is saying.
Yes. Hmm.
Um, do you believe that there are other things in the world that are speaking to you and to us that we also don't hear?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I really feel like during storms, and it's funny because storms actually scare me. I have, I don't know if you believe in this or if people are going to think I'm bizarre, but whatever, I'm bizarre. So, um, I have like a sixth sense. I've always had the ability to sort of see the other realm, if it were.
Yes.
So to me, storms have always scared me because I understand what they mean, and like universally, like in the existential, sense. Um, so they are talking that how violent the storm is or how heavy the winds are. Those are all the universe talking to us, saying straighten up, people.
Yeah.
So I definitely think there are things that talk to I can be sitting in a room and something will fly across it. I'm like, "Geez, who's
That's
trying to tell me something now?"
no. Uh,
What in the world?
but as
So,
strange as you think that is, even from the few conversations that I've had with strangers, like I would understand people that I associate with because I'm a weirdo too. So I would understand that. But these are strangers that I've never met, and so many of them speak similar stories.
okay.
And so knowing that things speak to us,
Mhm.
what do you feel this world is trying to say to us? Just like my daughters speak, yell, tantrum,
Mhm.
destroy.
Mhm. That's kind of how the storms work. It really is. You didn't hear me at this one. Well, we're going to make it a little more intense. Um, I feel like it's telling us not to slow down necessarily because innovation is important.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's telling us to be more cognizant of what we're doing to each other and to the environment. And I'm not like a tree hugger. I do what I can to leave a less carbon footprint, but I can't grow a garden to save my soul.
Right, right.
Keep trying.
Well, you're in Ohio. It's cold there.
um, no, but we do the best we can to try to minimize our waste and things like that. But I do think that there is that we have overstepped our bounds as a species.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what if you feel comfortable, and if you don't, it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the world is saying to us.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think the world wants you to hear that you haven't quite heard yet?
Me
If any,
personally.
yeah, if anything.
I think it could tell me that, I consider myself to be quite a tolerant human as far as humans go. My focus in fashion is 100% inclusivity, which is very, not the norm in the
Yeah.
industry. Um, but I do think that, like anybody, if you're honest with yourself, you have some prejudices, whether it's because of race, whether it's because of economic background, whether it's because of the country, whatever. I think that every one of us could be honest and say that there's some stereotypes that we built up in our own heads. And I would like to learn to let go of the ones that I have. I don't let them lead my life, but they are back there,
Yeah.
saying,
Yeah.
watch it, and I'm not okay with those. And I think the universe is trying to tell me that you need to kind of let those go and find the truth, because stereotypes are not, stereotypes. They're not real,
I had during the race protests that are still going on, but were going on in the heat of them a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I had a conversation with someone, and she was kind enough to send me a Harvard standardized test. And
Mm-hmm.
it took a look at what our belief systems were in a lot of different categories: age, weight, color of skin, religious practice. There were all these different things. So I just did color of skin because that was the common. And I've made statements that shock my wife sometimes, which I say, like, I'm really mad at God because at the last minute he made me white. I was supposed to be black, because that's how much of an affiliation I feel for
Mhm.
the culture of black people.
Mhm. Mhm.
And yet, when I did the Harvard standardized test, what I found was that I had a large propensity to be more comfortable around white people than I did around people of color,
Mhm.
and
Yes.
it shocked
It
me.
is shocking when you really look at yourself and see, because, I do not consider, I definitely consider myself much more, forward thinking than a lot of people.
Yeah,
And, but I mean, I don't care who you are, you have some propensity to one or the other. And for me, it's not necessarily a race-based thing. It's more of a economic-based thing for me. Not like poor versus rich, but locality. I seem to have some issues with, you know, I like people from the city,
yes,
like the urban city.
right.
I like people who are hustle and bustle, and and I feel like I have this. It's not. I don't know if it's prejudice or whatever, but I feel like if you're slower in your life, like if you're into country farming and that kind of stuff, I feel like, and it's not true, but my heart says to me that they don't have the dedication, commitment that those who work in the city bustle all the time do. But it's not true. It's just a different kind of goal.
Yeah, yeah.
So, those are the kind of things that I think everyone, if you were honest, every single person has some kind of, and I would like to be less of that.
Yeah. Well, but how beautiful that you see that you openly can talk
Mhm.
about it, and you can, because there's so many people that don't see it, can't talk about it, and don't know what to do.
Mhm.
Excuse me.
Mhm.
We are all, I think, being set face to face with what's going on in our country, in America now, not only with COVID-19 and the isolation that it's causing us to have,
Mhm.
but also the race situation that's going on, also the presidential elections that are coming up, and the elections for the country, and the divide that's between sort of the coasts and the
The
center.
hatred that's permeating our society is really scary,
Yeah,
just across the board.
yeah. And so one of the reasons why I love this show is because it's so easy to turn on the news and see how separate we are, and to see how different we are, and to see how much we don't like each other, and see how, and yet every conversation that I've had, like, look how much we resonated on the fact that we both have special needs kids, and we both were, I did a little bit in fashion, right? And
Mhm.
so many of your ideas are things that I could say right out of my own mouth.
Mhm.
Do you feel like you're heard?
Um, I don't feel like I'm talking. So I would say, yes, I'm not heard because I'm not vocal. Um, when I don't stand, now I feel like I don't stand for anything in particular other than 100% inclusivity in everything. Um, Even before I had a special needs child, I was always challenged individuals. I've always been inclusive in my own personal life in whatever way. Um, but I think that I don't think I'm speaking, so I don't think it's a matter of not being heard. I think it's a matter of people's interpretation, because more of what I'm doing is visual, like I'm putting out images of society and
Yeah.
of fashion and of editorial. In fact, I just did, because my degree is actually commercial photography. Um, so with each issue, which has like columns and articles and things, we do a special issue that focuses on a non-traditional model segment. So we do it to highlight, not to degrade. We do it to highlight the beauty in every human. And this particular time, because the issue came out literally during the pandemic, came out on Juneteenth actually. um, I took models around the city of Cleveland in the middle of the lockdown, and so the whole issue is about the solitude in the city and the sadness that the world. It just is really. I'm more visual than vocal, and I do think I'm heard in that respect. I think people really appreciate my work overall.
I love that. I would love to see it. And is it an online magazine or is it a?
It is. As a matter of fact, not normally do we do this, but we're giving away the digitals this time. So, digital download of our summer issue and our pandemic issue. So, am I allowed
Fabulous.
to show it? Would you like to?
Absolutely. You're allowed to show it. And can we put a link? How beautiful. Love that. You're a
That's
good
the picture of it.
photographer. Where were
Thank
you when I was doing fashion? I would have loved to have had you.
you. I do a little bit more. I push the envelope for the middle of the Midwest of America. I
Yeah.
tend to go a little bit more towards Vogue stuff, and I try to really kind of open people's minds to difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my wife the mother of my daughter passed away from a terrible bout of cancer.
Oh,
I'm remarried now, and we have another. We're creating a new family and all doing all that. But her mom and her brother, my wife's mom and brother,
mhm.
were two of the first people to open up Benetton stores in Italy.
Oh my, okay.
And so if you know
That's going back.
advertising campaign and
Yeah,
they
uh,
pushed the envelope a lot in their
that was the first
photography.
like real, international campaign, showing diversity like
Yes.
that. That's why Benetton has such a, for those of you who are young,
That's right. That's right.
us old folk remember Benetton.
That's right. It was, and so it was I loved being a part of that the little discussions we had. They were in Italy, so we saw them once a year or twice a year, whatever we saw. But I loved being and watching and staying afloat of what they were doing in that whole. So it was really interesting.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, if there was one thing, I love how content you are to be
It took
quiet
me a
at.
little, it took me a while to get here,
Yeah, but I love that. You can tell. And anyone who is at that place, you can feel that. And of course, it takes a while
but hmm.
because that place doesn't come overnight. Um,
And I think that that is, I mean, I've had my share of heartache in my life too. My father recently passed away of cancer, and my first marriage was a little on the abusive side. I mean, I've had my deals along the way, but I feel like every single experience there's a reason for it.
yeah,
The sad ones and the good ones and the bad ones and the happy ones, and you have to find peace with the bad and learn the lesson. Like some people ask me, don't you hate your ex because it was a really bad situation? And I'm like, no, I don't hate him. First of all, he woke me up to so many things. I
yeah,
had no clue. I grew up in suburban, and everything was pretty and beautiful, and literally, and he's from inner city, and he had to fight his way through everything, and I'd never seen that before,
yes,
so he taught me a lot. He taught me how to be strong when I didn't even know I wasn't strong, and he gave me my first two children. So no, I'm thankful for that experience, so I think that's the first lesson in learning to be happy with yourself, is to make peace with it and let it go, because
yeah,
it's made you who you are.
yeah.
So
So for someone who doesn't speak a message, you spoke a beautiful message right there. Right?
okay.
Are you with me?
I am, yeah.
and, and so, and I love the fact that, like, just listen to the story that my daughter taught me that I told you of speak, and that because she couldn't speak, she gave a mental message of how she was communicating. I love the fact that because you don't feel the need to speak, but you give your messages through visual images. I mean, we give messages however they are. We speak and we say what we want to say, right? The fact that
Hmm.
they're not words, they're pictures. That's a picture says 1,000 words. So how many?
Right,
There are more words, right?
right.
Um,
Communication is communication, so.
and finding our way into the way we communicate is such a beautiful message for
Mhm.
people who are listening to do, because there's some people that are not given the gift of gab. Like my dad said, you've got the
Right.
gift of gab, you can speak, or like whatever.
I could talk
uh,
about nothing for hours.
yeah, totally, totally. um so with all that said, I want to just come around to one more time just to ask the question, not that we'll get a different response, and don't feel pressured to give a different response, but I just listened to something inside my own head.
Hmm.
In whatever way you choose to communicate it or want to communicate it, what would be something you would like to say to the world right now, going through all the stuff that it's going through, that might give some either hope, give some guidance, give some advice, give some love, give some, just be there for them? Whatever it is you want to do, and however it is you want to say, what is it you would want to say?
This, this is one that it's going to sound really, really weird.
Okay, I love really weird.
That, I would say that you should learn from the cockroach. And the reason that I say that is way back when I was in college, I took arts classes, in photography. And so our humanities were all geared toward photography. And my psychology class was about client psychology and that. And our teacher would harp on us about having to be a cockroach, not a dinosaur. And didn't understand it at the time, but I totally do now.
Right.
Because a dinosaur didn't adapt and it's gone. And a cockroach can survive nuclear
Yeah.
anything and it's still going to be here. So you have to be like a cockroach and be adaptable and understand that the world is still going to be here tomorrow. So you have to figure out how to live in the new world, just like you did in the old world. So that's what I would say to the world. Be calm and be a cockroach. We'll get through it.
I
Is that weird?
so no, and not at all, because I learned somewhere back in late high school, early college, I can't remember where, that I can't remember what the other one was, but I remember that the cockroach is the most dominant creature on the planet because
Mhm.
nothing can destroy it.
Right.
It somehow
Mm-hmm.
has the resilience to stay alive no matter what you do.
Exactly.
As a species, it's almost impossible to get rid of them.
Yep.
So I think the advice of to be a cockroach couldn't be better advice. To just figure out how to find that
I
place in
wish
the
it was a
world.
prettier analogy, like be a butterfly, but
That's
no,
it.
we're gonna be the ugly cockroach.
But there's something beautiful in the fact that it's not be a butterfly, right?
Yeah, that's
because
true.
because we all want to be the butterfly. No one wants to be the cockroach, but the cockroach is what lives,
Exactly.
right?
Mhm.
um, how would people find you, and if they want to just sign up for your magazine, sign up to, if there are models out there that want to get in touch with you about representation,
Mhm.
if there are people
Mhm.
that want to just get counsel from you or guidance from you, how will you send me, first of all those links so that I can have them and put them in the notes here?
Absolutely.
And will you just
Absolutely.
tell people the best way to do that now?
Yes. Yes. I do want to make sure that everybody knows that we accept submissions, I'm sorry, from all ranges of talent levels. So even if you've never done modeling or designing before, we seek out the new ones as well as the successful and emerging. So if you have any interest, submit to us and we'll see what we can do from there. Um, and you would look at all those things on Haute, Ohio, which is HAUTEOHIO.com. Or you can check us out on Facebook and Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. It would be OHFW_official. So if
Okay.
you're interested in sponsoring, advertising, contributing, if you're interested in modeling or designing, give us a shout out. And all can be done through the website. And you can there's links for all of the issues, current and archival, through there as well. So everything you
Fabulous.
could want is there.
Fabulous. And is it true that I heard you say that for people who contact you, you will send them a link online to the current magazine and the pandemic magazine.
Yes, absolutely. Yep. They're on there. There's also links on the cover, the homepage of our
How
website.
to do that.
I absolutely will. Yeah.
Okay.
Take you right
So,
to the.
so please, everybody, if this conversation has interested you, take the next step. Get to know get to know Jackie a little bit. Get to know her through her work. It may not be her words that hit you. It may be her images that hit you. And even though her words are fabulous, um, take the time and go a little bit deeper. And please, all the links will be in the notes that we have that we post.
Yes. And
And
please, everybody download the free issue. That the summer issue and the pandemic are free this time for digital download. And the reason we did it this time was because we also gave away free advertising to sort of jumpstart the economy. So we're trying to get those advertisers to have more of an audience. So
fabulous.
it's free this time. Go out and get it.
That's right, totally. And you don't need to be in Ohio or the Midwest. You can do it
Oh
from
no,
both
we
coasts.
had, in fact, two of the designers that we featured this time are from Madagascar. So
Wow,
just because we focus on the Midwest doesn't mean we are limited in the Midwest at all.
fabulous. So worldwide, download, work with her, do what you got to do. And I just want to thank you so much for taking your time, for being such a beautiful representation of the person of people in the world.
We should
For
get you and your daughter to walk for us. I know how fashionable.
I would be so beautiful. She would love that. I used to
Well,
dress her up.
yeah.
We would have, I would create these lines and she would go, Daddy, Daddy, I want to wear it. And we did a photo shoot one time with her as the model for the photo shoot.
Yes,
It was
one of
so,
the models that I've signed is a much smaller group than the models I work with in general. But I have models that are LGBTQ, that are petite, that are children, that are adults, like mature adults. I
yeah,
have challenged models with Down syndrome. So the beauty is inside, not on the
yes,
outside.
yes.
So yes, I would love to have you guys come to Ohio and hang out
I,
for a while since you love Cleveland.
I love, I love, I love Ohio.
Mhm.
Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. It's been a real honor to get to know you. Again, I thank you for your courage in taking the appointment and walking in sight unseen. Um, and I look forward to this not being the end of our conversations, but the beginning.
Good. I would love that. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for having me and giving me a chance to just kind of let go and ramble.
Absolutely. And please, those of you who are listening, please like this, share it with your friends. Please post it. We'll have it on Facebook. We'll have it on YouTube. I will have it
Mhm.
on social media and just enjoy it and get in touch with her. Get that magazine. It's free. Get it for these next two issues because it won't be
Yes.
free after that. So get to enjoy what
Exactly.
she's got, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Until the next one, thank you so much. And I say this to close every episode, and I'm sorry if it's boring or I'm sorry if it's getting too much, but look what happens when you just take a few minutes to reach out and talk to someone that you never even knew existed a few minutes before that.
Mm-hmm.
Look how enjoyable the conversation is. Look
Mm-hmm.
how much you share with people. We do not live in the world that the television is telling us we live in. We
That's
live
exactly right.
we live in this world where
Mhm.
we all are so much more connected than we think. We so much more believe like each other. We so much do the things that each other does, and all the things we think are weird, we all do. They're not weird. They're only weird because we think we're the only ones doing it. And so
Mhm.
the beauty of this show is that strangers in 30 minutes become friends. Imagine what can happen if we spend a few minutes with more strangers. Everybody needs more friends. It wouldn't hurt any of us to have more people that are friends of ours. Take the challenge. Go out and talk to someone you don't know and see what happens. Thank you
Mhm.
so much for being here again, Jackie. Thank you again, listeners. Thank you. Until next time.